Spain owned most of the rest of the continent, but around 1810 the U.S. began expanding. It gained Louisiana Purchase from France, which was once the colony of Louisiana owned by Spain. The land covered more of the Midwest and is in the middle of the continent. Then they gained Florida and Texas, then the Oregon Territory, and then half of Mexico. They also claimed Alaska, Hawaii, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico.
Between 1800 and 1899, there was a great growth of population. In 1800, there were about 5,308,000 people. In 1850, there were about 23,191,000 people. In 1899, there was an even greater growth in population. In fact, the population more than tripled. There were about 76,212,000 people.
In 1862, the U.S. government passed an act that allowed any American on the born arrival, and you had to be the head of your family, to claim up to 160 acres of public land. This act was called the Homestead Act. Over 15,000 claims were made. It was repealed in 1976. It was around for about 114 years.
The 1800s was a hard time compared to now. If you think your chores are tough, you should see what the children did. Girls had to cook, milk cows, gather eggs, churn butter, and make clothes, blessed candles. Boys had to hunt, tend the garden, fish, carry heavy buckets filled with water, and repair fences. They did this all before the sun rose. Schools were also different back then, too. Schools were very small and only had one room. If you didn't go to school, you stayed home and did chores. Teachers could be as young as 15 years old. Most teachers lived too far from the schoolhouse, so they stayed with one of their students instead. Life was shorter too. The life expectancy was about 38.8 years for women and 39 for men. They spent their small lives farming and practicing religion. Slaves and children lived less than the expectancy. People of the 1800s don't have very much activities compared to what we have now.
Prices were different and a lot cheaper. Beef cost 8 cents a pound, potatoes cost 56 cents a bushel, milk was 42 cents a gallon. Americans ate what they grew or hunted locally. Foods like corn and beans were common. Pork was also common. Cows provided milk and meat in the north, and shrimp was meat in the south. To preserve food, you needed smoking, drying, or salting meat. Pigs were kept in a roost and were harvested and eaten right away. They cooked the food over fire.
It had spikes on the bottom for grip and a leather strap for support and comfort while running. Back then, the buttons were used as decoration, and around the 1840s, the men wore pants, waistcoat, a shirt, and vest. There was no button-down shirts. Outside, the men wore wide-brim hats made of straw and leather, also silk. The women wore big skirts and dresses. They also did not have a lot of outfits. It was common for women to wear corsets to make their waists look smaller. Pants were not usually worn by women.
Let's talk about housing in the 1800s. Housing was and always might be different. Many people lived in crowded tenements, which are narrow apartment buildings, or boarding houses with plank flooring instead of carpet or tile. One landmark that I'm going to talk about is the Old Faithful Geyser, and it is at Yellowstone National Park. It was the first geyser in a national park to be named. Old Faithful Geyser was named for its frequent eruptions. It can shoot over 8,400 gallons of water, and the stream pressure has been measured above 350 degrees Celsius. Another landmark is the Statue of Liberty. The French gave us a Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty symbolizes the freedom of the United States. The monument was based off of a Roman goddess of liberty. There were many things invented in the 1800s. Some of the technology invented was the vulcanization machine in 1843, finalized in 1844, and the sewing machine in 1846. There was also an arc lamp in 1809. How well can they do? The vulcanization machine was used to weatherproof rubber. The sewing machine was used to stitch together fabrics with a single thread. The arc lamp was the first electric lamp, used to light homes without the worry of burning it.
be talking about transportation in the 1800s. First of all, the 1800s was a big jump in ways of transportation. Railroads were being placed, the invention of early cars, and sea travel was improving. Railroads were being introduced to the USA. Early versions of cars were also being invented in the 1800s. The first car, called the horseless carriage, was invented in the early 1800s. In 1837, the first known electric car was made by Robert Davidson. The first gas-powered car was built in 1893.